Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Tracy Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talk House podcast.
What's up? I'm Elia Einhorn. Welcome back to the Talk House podcast. Today I'm joined by
Executive Editor Josh Modell.
and we have a very cool show for you today. This is for the electronic music heads. The one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Vince Clarke in conversation with Paul and Phil Hartnoll of Orbital.
I think it's fair to say that this week we are kicking it old school.
Well, Josh, when I heard that Orbital were touring the States after way the fuck too long, and I heard that they were getting lunch with Vince before their show at Brooklyn Steel here in town, I knew that we needed to get a mic in front of these guys.
Do you have spies that just tell you who are having lunch around New York so you can schedule these things? That's an amazing network.
Just think of me as the indie rock page 6, Josh.
I was kind of thinking you're more like Varys from Game of Thrones, and you have little spiders around telling you like what indie rockers and electronic musicians are in town.
Oh, man. Well, Josh, I am excited to say that this is Vince's three-peat appearance. This is his hat trick on the podcast. He first joined us with Jean-Michel Jarre, another electronic music legend, and then with Reed Hayes as they gave a lesson to Blood Orange and a couple of the ladies from Savages on the Buchla synthesizer. So I say that to set up what's coming. This is going to be some deep synthesizer talk.
Yeah, there are some name drops here that you're not going to believe, and they're not people. They're all gear.
Totally. Now, Vince is, of course, really and truly a legend of synthpop. He founded Depeche Mode. He left Depeche Mode and formed Yaz, a.k.a. Yazoo, if you're English, with Alison Moyet. Then he left and formed Erasure with Andy Bell.
Yeah, and he and Andy have made, I don't even know how, I'm sure Wikipedia could tell you, but it's a lot of records and a ton of hits.
I actually caught Erasure for the first time live this year, Josh. They did a stand here in New York at the end of their 2-year tour. And it was just insane hearing hit after hit after hit. I just couldn't believe how many massive singles had come out of one group. Now, the guys are still at it. In 2017, they dropped the record World Be Gone. Last year, they released World Beyond. That was a classical reworking of World Be Gone, as well as World Be Live, which is cuts from the album and Erasure classics pulled from across the decades on a fantastic live record. One song that appeared on all three of those formats is Love You to the Sky. Let's play the version from World Be Gone. Josh, within 10 seconds of any Erasure song, you know a band you're listening to. Paired with Vince for today's conversation, the two brothers that form Orbital, a legendary name in UK rave.
Yeah, Orbital's been around and making amazing music since 1989 when they recorded a track called Chime at their parents' house on their dad's cassette player, and kind of became a leading light in scenes that didn't even really have names at the time, from high energy to electro to rave. And they became known as these guys that would play raves in their little headlight headsets, which unfortunately they've ditched at this point. They've broken up on and off over 30 years, but they're responsible for some incredible songs. And even people that aren't necessarily invested in electronic music have probably heard their tracks somewhere. At the very least, a song called Halcyon, aka Halcyon and On, that was on the soundtrack to Mean Girls, Hackers. It's been in video games. It's one of those electronic songs where when you hear it, you're like, oh, that song. The latest Orbital album is called Monsters Exist, which dropped late last year. It's their 9th studio album in 30 years. So they've been around. The album is another classic in their catalog, containing a little bit of political themes along with some classic sounds and more updated electronic stuff. It's pretty amazing. Let's check out the song Tiny Foldable Cities from Monsters Exist.
Josh, it was so cool to hear people who have been there, people who lived it, sharing their experience over the decades. And the guys really took in a lot. Their conversation goes all the way back to their childhoods and brings us through the UK scenes that they were immersed in through the 80s and into the 90s, all the way up to their most current tours and releases.
It was really cool to hear about their writing and recording processes, especially Paul's amazing way of demoing beats.
Oh, man. I mean, we've heard in past episodes really interesting approaches from people as diverse as Clams Casino to Yoshimi from the Boredoms. I have never heard anything like the way Paul approaches demoing.
I wonder what his dentist thinks.
We also get the guys' take on EDM fests.
They talk about the differences in the US and UK scenes and between raves back then and kind of semi-raves happening now.
We hear the first record that each of them ever bought with their own money.
And then the best gig that Phil never actually made it to. He was so close.
So close. Should we roll a tape?
Yeah, man, let's hear it.
All right. Vince opens up and Paul jumps right in. Check it out.
This is my opening question. What the hell are you doing here?
What the hell are we doing here? We are recolonizing the States for Orbital. We haven't been for a long time, and they've forgotten who we are. So we're coming out.
No, they haven't forgotten. Forgotten.
Here's hoping. Yeah. But we've got New York, Brooklyn Steel. We've got San Francisco and LA. So it's three gigs.
Nice.
Yeah. Lots of press and that kind of thing, just to kind of reintroduce ourselves back to the States.
Right.
I love it over here, though. I do like playing over here. It's really...
When was the last time you played here?
2012, wasn't it?
Well, we did know properly...
2012.
Yeah, we did Coachella. Those, a couple of raves as well, didn't we? A couple of massive
that one
raves.
In Orange County, wasn't it?
That was quite funny. They were good fun. It was interesting to see a proper full-on American EDM rave. 2 huge sheds, 10,000 people each, with just a banging EDM. It was interesting.
But it was funny because we were there all day because all our equipment and stuff, weren't we? It's like you could tell, like the superstar DJs would just turn up sort of like half an hour before their set.
Yeah.
And they would go, like, during the whole day, there was like a top 10, wasn't there?
Oh, they're all playing the same records.
They all played the same records. They didn't know the same guy. They didn't know the guy who just played it, the set before. Do you know what I mean? But
not like the olden days when everyone used to hang out all day and, you know, go, oh, shit, they played my records. What am I going to play?
Wasn't it? It was like, very noticeable.
Yeah. But then we did come and do the Paul Oakenfold's thing in LA, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, we did that.
A couple of years ago. That was good fun. The funny little televised dance music awards thing.
Right.
Very, very odd. Good fun, but really coordinated, wasn't it, to the second.
Yeah,
it was kind of funny.
And you were performing for that?
Yeah.
It was involved with Twitter or something, wasn't it? Twitter.
The internet. Something to do with the internet.
Something to do with it.
Yeah, well, what are you up to?
Well, we just finished touring.
Oh, yeah, of course, which I saw.
Yeah,
great.
We were pretty much on tour for 2 years.
Wow.
Off and on, So I'm glad that's over.
Right.
And now I'm just like, twiddling my thumbs, really. I'm doing a few remixes for people.
Nice.
I've got like a little label, as you know.
As I know, yeah.
And so there's a new artist that I'm working with, again from the UK, who hopefully will be releasing his record at the beginning of the year.
So how long have you lived over here?
I've been here now for about 14 years, 15 years.
What, in Brooklyn?
Well, we started off in Manhattan. We were in Tribeca.
Oh, I love that.
Which was stupidly expensive. And then we moved to Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn, which was half the price, pretty much.
Right.
Then we moved to Maine,
right,
which was obviously a complete shock for my wife.
Right.
But I loved it, but then she wanted to come back to New York. So now we're back in Brooklyn.
Right.
I was going to say, I think I probably quite like Maine. I quite like New England. It's nice.
It's beautiful. I mean, the winters can be severe, but again, the winters in New York are horrible also.
Yeah.
Do you still have that space?
Yeah. It hasn't fallen down yet.
Because last time we spoke, you said that the guy was going to take it back.
They're always threatening to do that. But, basically, I think, with Brexit going on, no one's developing anything. Everyone's just kind of sitting to wait and see what happens. So last time he said something, I think he said we got it for about 2 to 3 years. That was about up to a year ago. So, it's still going strong. It's still a great place.
It's
People
keep
space, coming around and changing. Still like 9 studios there, though. It's great.
Yeah, I like the little community sort of vibe about it.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was really, really seriously considering doing something similar here, if I could find a space. some because you realise though you're working at home, you're recording at home in your home studio, and then you get really lonely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's nice to have a little bit of banter and.
So how did you got your new album out now? Right?
Yeah.
How was that? How was recording that? How did it go? Was it fun?
It was fun. I loved it. Yeah,
it was good.
Great fun.
It was good. A lot of it was made up with lots of stuff that Paul had been doing.
Right.
Well, I don't know where they came from.
Oh, who knows where these things come from?
Yeah. So, he's very prolific, actually. And I come in and go, oh no, do that ball, do this ball, do that ball.
Right.
And then, so we went through them, didn't we? It was good to get an album out this year, which so we put it all together, and it seemed it sort of came together, didn't it? We got the Monsters Exist title, which was I really just love that sort of. And it just sets my imagination off.
Right.
And so it was and sort of like hanging it on there, and it sort of seemed to slot into place, didn't it?
Yeah.
With the theme, really.
Yeah, no, it's a great theme for
certain ways.
Current affairs in the world at the minute.
How do you knock a tune together then? Do you have a melody idea and then build around it, or is it a groove first?
No, there's no hard and fast rules. Because I do things like I've got little apps on my phone where like little drum machine apps, and I'll do little rhythms, or I click my teeth all the time to rhythms to walking. And I sometimes find myself going, oh, that's a good rhythm. And what I do is I shove the corner of my iPhone into my mouth and record it. And then you can listen to that rhythm and translate that into drum machines or just sample it and do weird stuff with it in Ableton. But I do things like that. But sometimes you just draw them into a track, don't you? It's like Tiny Foldable Cities, for example, was something that came up. I was on the phone to someone and just playing some chords, and when I got off the phone, I thought, oh, that's quite good. Turned the computer back on, recorded 2 or 3 lead lines over the top, and thought, okay, turn the computer off. That's it. Remember that. And
so the writing doesn't always originate from rhythms, then?
No. And then because I got one of my rhythms from the phone, I just thought, oh, I bet that'll go really well with that.
Yeah.
And Phil came in and said, oh, yeah, I like that. And he said, what about a rhythm like this for the bass line? And just sort of hammered out something on one note. And I kind of transposed it all to the song. And, it just went like that, really.
Right.
But it can depend. It's like some of it came from a TV show that I was doing, and there's sort of offcuts that didn't end up on the telly, where you've got literally just like a hip-hop drum beat and all these kind of huffing and puffing female vocals. Right. And then, I got some chords that were originally like a harpsichord and then turned them into big kind of, Jupiter 8 kind of sounds and that kind of thing. And it just sort of develops bit by bit. It can come from any direction, really.
Right.
But it's one of those things, I think normally it's there for me, when I start crying, I'll stand up and have to walk out and make a cup of tea. Okay, we get a bit of an emotional kind of, yeah, something's working, and I have to walk away again and come back and go and check to make sure that
it's not crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Vince? Did you used to have a studio? It was like a spaceship, like a flying saucer.
Well, it was more like a mosque, actually.
Was it?
It was a dome. It's a dome in Surrey in the UK, and it was purpose built. All of the walls were filled with synthesizers, and they were all interconnected, which meant that basically you could take an LFO from a keyboard this end and feed it to an VCO that end.
Right. What, through a big patch bay or something?
Yeah, it was like a continual ring all the way around.
Oh, right.
But the big pain in the arse. I mean, I thought it was really smart and clever and funny and everything, but the problems we had with with making it sound.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was such a weird sound without all of the... we had to put lead up behind the walls. Whoa. Like these big lead panels that actually moved. And then on top, there was all of this intricate, sound, not soundproofing, but sound absorption stuff, just to make it sound normal.
Right, and being round as well, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like, when you go into if you go into a cathedral or something, like that, it's all around you.
Yeah. We did a gig in a gas chamber once in Amsterdam, didn't we? It was like...
Yeah, an old gas holder.
It was like, that was tricky.
That was. The only people who got away with that, actually, I was always impressed. Alltecker really impressed me because they're so kind of experimental in their approach. they kind of said, oh, yeah, we've worked out what the slapback is. So if we do everything at 123 BPM, the slapback works like a really nice delay. And it's like, yeah, bastards.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was back in the day when there was no Ableton, so you couldn't time stretch your songs. So if it's like, we can't do it. We've got break beats. It's like,
Right.
Yeah, but they were like really happy and I wouldn't say smug, but they were really chuffed with themselves.
They're a lot more
worked.
minimal though at that time, weren't they?
Yeah, but they were all drum machine and synth based, so it worked a treat for them.
Right. And when you're doing your live, when you're doing your live thing tonight, are you going to be did you bring all your gear with you?
Oh yeah.
But everything.
Yeah, everything. Well, not the whole studio, but everything that we bring.
We've got it whittled
live.
down to Pelly cases and stuff, so we can fly.
We've got the Duke to 6 though.
Have you got that? What's the big analog ARP-like analog synthesizer?
No, the Macbeth. We don't fly that because we can't. It's too big. Although I want to get it put into a picture frame because most of it is actually just mounted to the front panel. So actually, it's a lot of dead space there. So I want to try and see if I can get that put into some kind of wooden frame to bring that because I love bringing that live. It's brilliant. But instead of that, we've got the Matrix Brute, which weirdly feels a similar. It's sonically different, but it feels a similar space to how I used it because it's full of knobs. It's very modulable and it's quite aggressive as well, which is what the Macbeth. It's what I used the Macbeth for.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Very aggressive things live. So the Matrix Brute covers that, but we've got like a Prophet 6, which is good. A Bass Station 2, 303.
Peak.
And you're not running Logic. You're running
Ableton.
Yeah.
In clip mode. So it's all improvised still, but with my lemurs, on iPads to trigger the clip, so I don't have to look at the computer.
So, and you're not using a sampler or anything, are you? I mean, for vocals and stuff.
No. All sampling duties is done in Ableton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I've done to retain the kind of character of stuff, songs like old songs that were done on say like an Emax 2 or something like that. We've sampled instead of just taking the sample and putting it into Ableton, we've sampled a loop of the Emax 2, so that it's still got that Emax-y kind of character.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And have you tested all the stuff? Is it all?
Not yet. That's this afternoon's job. Yeah. You got to check it for continental drift and all that kind of thing.
You're popping along time.
I'm going to sound check for a change. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 110 volts here, just so you know.
I know. Yeah. I've watched him plug a pair of clippers in to a hotel once. That was hilarious.
With me?
Yeah. Proper bloody sparks coming out the wall. He just went, no, I'm sure it's all right. Boom! Got blown away from the wall. It was great.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Was that over here,
he had long hair for the rest of the tour.
Yeah, it kept getting in my eyes.
Yeah.
So, Phil.
Hello. I love you, Vince. I love you. I've been following you around all my life.
Paul was telling me, he was telling me like really nice things about you, but also...
Was he?
He was saying that you've been DJing quite a bit?
Yeah, I love a little bit of DJing. I mean, that's what got me going with just interesting in synths and, like hearing Cabaret Voltaire and all that. And also, you got a lot of gay disco, high energy and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I used
to
go to heaven.
Yeah.
Well, it's just the sound.
Oh, that was brilliant, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I used to go to heaven on my own, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, well, that's how we started. I mean, that's how Erasure started.
Yeah.
We really wanted to be a high-energy band because all that was really happening exactly that point, at like 1984, 85, 86,
Exactly, that's it, yeah.
And our first London show was in heaven.
Was it really? Yeah, I see.
And who was the guy? There was a guy, a producer guy, I think he died recently, but the actual original track, High Energy, which was by... The woman singer.
Is it Bobby O, the producer?
No, he was no. Anyway, this particular chap was recording in the same studio as we were.
Oh.
And we would go and listen to the rhythms. to the cowbell rhythms, like whatever. And I go, we'll make a little recording of that, outside the door, and then we put it into our tracks.
Brilliant.
So that's so you did high energy at first.
Yeah, no, it was like high energy, and then like electro was after that, wasn't it?
Electro came a little bit after, but it was that combination of the two. Well, we used to love electro and love high energy, and there was never enough of either. Not the sort of underground stuff, anyway. And then when house music came, then we loved all the industrial stuff. Bands like yourself, like Depeche Mode and Yazoo. Cabaret Voltaire,
No,
Severed
Front
Heads.
242 and Eisend and Newbark as well. They
but
were
all
a
those
little
kind
bit
of bands like Hula and Shack, that kind of Sheffield funk, industrial funk kind of stuff.
There was Hula, with a little bit of art schooly sort of crossover and sort of bit moody.
Right,
and sort of a bit 80s,
I love that time. I mean, for me, that was the most exciting. I'm older than you lot, but for me, like 1980, 1981, 1982, those were you heard this music that you'd never heard, or these sounds that you'd never heard before.
That's exactly it. That's what got to go, what the hell made that?
Yeah.
And then that was like the attraction to the synth. I mean, I never really thought, Paul's much more driven, he's much more like, he can play a bit of guitars, he's much more set in his sights of, a career sort of thing.
Right.
Like, I just wanted to muck about and make noises and laziness, I suppose.
Well done, you've achieved your aim, sir.
Pushing buttons and making you learn that, I get a drum machine, cool. And then that's how it all started.
It's kind of interesting because, like in the States, I mean, I do a radio show every fortnight with an American, and all that early electronic stuff they weren't aware of here.
Yeah,
what they consider like 80s music was really like Duran Duran, which was
right,
really just like a rock band with a synthesizer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a synthesizer music, or possibly the Cars.
Yeah, right.
Because they had the lead line, going on and everything,
Yeah.
And so when I play stuff from that era, he's like amazed.
Right.
Because he just wasn't exposed to it back then,
Yeah. Well, we came over, we did our first tour supporting Meat Beat Manifesto.
Oh, really?
And it was like, over here they used to call it industrial. Was it industrial?
They were an industrial band,
They were
weren't
an industrial band, weren't they? Yeah.
Over here, I don't know what we called them back. I always kind of lumped them into left field house music in a weird, because they were very dance, weren't they?
Yeah, well,
in England,
they
pretty much started drum and bass, didn't they? And
they
jungle,
did the break, like
with Radio
break
Babylon
and things like
That's
that.
the first time I'd ever heard anything like that.
That would, knock my socks off. That did. How did we hook up with them?
Through the Shaman, the conduit of the Shaman. Tucked us under their wing.
Right.
In 1990, got us to our first gig in London.
Really? Yeah,
and then they just kept taking us around doing support slots for them.
Yeah.
And then they used to do massive events, big warehouse kind of things in Scotland, and that was where we bumped into Meat Beat Manifesto, and they kind of shoved us all into the same dressing room. We got on like a house on fire, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then they took us to America. And
but
so
they
we
didn't
played
turn
all
up,
these,
though, did they?
They
messed up their visa for
about a week, did they?
Yeah. So we had to go around doing
we played the Limelight, didn't we? Twice in 2 nights in a row.
To people that had come bought tickets to Meat Beat Manifesto. And then we turned up, we were like, no, and they weren't there. We go, well, we've got these instead. And everyone's going, we're really moody. And, oh, dear, never heard of us. It's sort of like, well, got to try and win them over.
Yeah.
But that's what's interesting around that time, because you did get sort of little pockets of ravers in, but it was never national. Like the UK, it's a breeding ground for like sort of subculture because of the geographical size of it. And, like something happens in Brighton, you hear about it in Scotland after a few days before the internet, do you know what I mean? Or a trend or something, and it seemed to, because it's one big small
stage. It's like a village, isn't it?
It's like that.
Spreads through the village like wildfire.
With a lot of people, and it gets noticed because it's the UK as well. So, but over here, all these little pockets had never really joined each other. It was never a national thing.
No.
Until, the EDM thing really, took it.
Well, that's right. I mean, there was never a rave scene here.
No.
I mean, there wasn't even a legal raves.
It wasn't like a national rave. Yeah, it wasn't, it was...
There were parties in sort of up in this northeast corner and along the west coast.
And they did have warehouse parties.
But more nightclubs, though, wasn't it, really?
I mean, I remember, because I started doing a bit of DJing about 4 years ago.
Right, okay.
And I did a couple of shows in the States, but like in New York, there were no techno clubs.
Yeah, right.
They would have a techno night.
Yeah, right.
Like every 2 weeks or something like that. And then there would be like a ladies' free night, that first free drink.
What sort of plus, do you go out DJing now then?
No, I you know what, I did it and it was interesting and I kind of enjoyed it, but I've never drank so much Red Bull in my life, just to stay awake.
Yeah.
I can't do it. My liver can't handle it anymore, mate.
Yeah. It's too late for me nowadays.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It came through necessity at the beginning. When we first split up, this is version 3 we're on now, Orbit version 3. Is that, I've got kids and all that. There wasn't really a lot of money around. Go, what am I going to do? And people go, wouldn't you go and DJ? I said, because I'm not a DJ.
Right.
And then, like, push came to shove, so I got myself a couple of, what are those, 12, I don't know what they're called, those, the decks.
Turntables.
Yeah, that's it, the ones with the needles on, you know. 12 something or other. And just practice. And at that time, there was, like, the trend of breakbeat going on, Rennie Pilgrim, Plump DJs, that type of thing. I loved that. And then, so there was lots of little underground breakbeat sort of clubs going around. I did that sort of circuit. It sort of helps keep that enthusiasm for me. You know, like listening to other people's music is the best.
Yes. So when you do it practically, are you using vinyl? Or are you doing?
No. Then I discovered Ableton after a while. After doing the breakbeat stuff for a long time with just vinyl, didn't get on with CDJs at all. Did not like.
No, I don't really like that. I kind of like it, but you end up putting just 2 CDs in, and it's kind of not really vinyl, and it's not really messing around with Ableton. It's a weird one.
So I found out about Ableton, and then I looked into that, and then I got a breakout box, so, you know, D2A converter, really nice metric halo thing. I still used a DJ mixer as a, you know, to mix on.
Are you beat matching?
Yeah, you do the warp thing. They do No, I'm not beat matching with Ableton.
No, you don't have to.
No. It does it all for you.
You have to do a little bit of homework first to make sure that that everything is in place, because it's not that great. But once that's done, I always found that a bit boring anyway. You know, like just do. Oh, Jesus,
vibe killer having to beat match. It's much more fun when you don't have to think about that. You can just think about music.
That's it. You can do other. Yeah, you can like think about other creative things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the I did this DJ set, and there was a DJ before me, and I had my setup, you know, and I was beat matching and all the rest of it, and she had 2 record decks, literally 2 record tables, and she put one record on, that ended, and then she put the next record on, and that ended. Then she would just go like that, and I'm thinking, that's the way to go, because at the end of the day, people don't necessarily need to be dancing for 12 hours. They go, oh, I know that song. I'm going to go have a little dance.
Yeah.
That's middle age.
The thing is, mostly, when a lot of dance tunes, they do like about a minute and a half of the drum intro, so you can mix it, and then it's like a minute and a half drum outro sort of thing, so that, you know, easier to mix, or, you know, not give you too many complications. Maybe take the bass out.
That's what they said about Chime, wasn't it? That was the lucky thing about Chime. It wasn't done on purpose, but apparently it was a really easy track to mix.
Right.
Because it didn't have any bass line. And it was just all hanging on one note. It was a rhythm, but it was quite forgiving. So if you weren't quite matched, it would still sound all right. And it gave you the chance for you to go, I'll just take the other track out, and then you get a nice little breakdown. So it was it starts DJs with a ding, 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 ding. Thanks to all those bad mixing amateur DJs, Chime became a hit. You know?
There you go.
Didn't notice.
That was just released on cassette, wasn't it?
It was recorded on cassette, and then Jazzy M, he made me record it onto I did it on a normal cassette, and he said, do it on a metal cassette. We've got to make it look posh.
What's a metal cassette?
A metal cassette, you know, the most expensive cassettes you could buy at the time. £3.50, Seven Oaks Hi-Fi. It was the most expensive track I'd ever recorded at the time. I thought this better be worth it.
Like, yeah.
You know, and then Jazzy M, when he wanted to play it to Pete Tong, he recorded it from that onto a DAT just to make us look professional.
What Pete Tong did?
No, Jazzy M did. He put it onto a DAT to give to Pete Tong. You know, ridiculous behaviour.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That must have been reissued many times, right?
I don't know. I don't think it has been reissued.
Really? No, it's vinyl. I mean,
no. London Records have kind of sold themselves so many times over the years. It's now in the hands of Because, who are they're kind of quite proactive, going around sort of reissuing lots of their back catalogue. They haven't got round to us yet, so I don't know if they're going to or not. But
it'll happen, mate.
Yeah.
You can guarantee
Well, there you go. You know, but so far, Chime, if you want it on vinyl, it's only the first ever issue, either the 3,000 white labels or the original sort of FFRR. That's it.
Wow.
Vinyl is coming back now, though, isn't it? Like, quite well, they say that is, but, you know...
Coming back at you like a steam train in a country village.
Yeah. In a slow fashion. First gear.
Yeah. Nice for enthusiasts, but it ain't going to earn anyone any money.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
In Asda, they got vinyl.
I know.
Yeah, they got a rack of vinyl.
What kind of things are they favouring?
They favour all the classic stuff. So they do like really like 14-ounce or 14-pound records.
Yeah.
So all the Pink, there's like Dark Side of the Moon, all those classic rock albums.
Yeah.
They're all being re-released on like, is it 14-ounce vinyl? I don't know. I don't know. It's very heavy, whatever it is.
Yeah, nice.
People will pay like $40, $50 or $60 for a vinyl now. You know, back in the day when I was a lad, it was like £10.
Yeah. I remember when I first started buying albums, they were $3.99. Yeah, we're going back. When I was a whippet.
I can remember.
Crisp packets, £2, 2.5p. Who remembers the halfpenny?
Well, the first single I bought was 49p, and I got a discount because my sister used to work at Boots, the chemist.
Nice.
And they had a record division.
Yeah, I know, that's weird, isn't it, nowadays? But yeah, I remember. I used to buy a lot of records from Boots.
Yeah, 49p. It was, this town ain't big enough for the both of us, by Sparks.
Nice, classic. Now, I think mine was 50p, my first one. Tears of a Clown by The Beat.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What was yours?
What, my first record?
Yes.
I think it was the Jackson 5 Greatest Hits, because I asked for it for my birthday.
Oh, if we're doing that, then it was Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney, or Wings.
What do you mean if we're going to do that?
I was 5. Well, go back to what you asked for. I actually bought... I went in the shop and bought Tears of a Clown with my own money.
No, I asked for Greatest Hits and a lot off of Ray and Mick and that lot, and they got me Ben.
You used to love that album.
No, I know, but I didn't...
Had a rat on the cover. What's not to love?
I know, I couldn't see the movie or anything. I didn't know where it was, or, I wanted the Greatest Hits, didn't I? But, I learnt to hide my disappointment and say, okay, thanks. Brilliant.
A skill that's become useful many times over.
It has.
So what was the first single that you bought?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm trying to think if I can remember what your first single was.
Two Little Boys or something like that.
Ouch.
I don't know. Did I say that out loud?
Oh, dear.
Oh, my God.
I saw a clip of Cabaret, Liza Minnelli singing Money, 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 Money. Made my gran go down and ask for it, but it was like only on album.
Right.
She couldn't stretch that far.
Do you remember those...
Cheap. That was for one of your first ones.
Was it?
The original Birdie song.
Yes.
With Who Needs Money on the B-side.
Yeah.
We used to love running around to that.
Yeah, no, we did.
Mental track.
Yeah. Do you remember those awful, they're awful, but they're quite kind of funny now, those Top of the Pops records?
Yeah.
These were records that had 15 tracks on them, but they were covers.
Yeah.
And when I remember buying those, and I'm thinking, they don't sound the same as they did on the they don't sound exactly the same as they should. But they were really cheap, and they were really quiet. Because they crammed on so many tracks onto the vinyl, and it was like just a complete rip-off, really, And then the first album I bought was Genesis.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Trick of the Tail.
Oh,
is that a good one? I don't know.
Oh man,
the
Trick of the Tail.
Peter Gabriel, Genesis, isn't it?
No, it was the first album that Phil started singing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I bought a stereo system, a Sharp stereo system, so a record player and 2 speakers, and it was in white.
Nice.
And I just listened to that album. I put the 2 speakers by my head and just listened to that for days. I couldn't believe it. Compared to the Top of the Pops records.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I remember our elder brother, we don't talk about him much, Gary.
The surgeon?
Dr. Gary Hartnoll, BAMD, something, not quite over.
Yeah, he's brilliant though, actually, coming from our family. He's ended up going to Cambridge University, then...
First person from our village to go to Cambridge.
Yes, yeah, it was.
Is that right?
I don't know.
It must be. If you've been to my village, you'd know that. It's probably right.
So we used to go to Hammersmith Odeon and go and see lots of bands up there, and I used to go up there with him, and he took me to see Genesis, Trick of the Tail tour.
Oh, really?
I saw that, it fucking blew my mind.
Yeah.
Really did. Oh my God, it was like fantastic.
But also it's that time in your life when you're like, suddenly music is like, not just something you listen to, it's something that's the most important thing. It becomes the most important thing in your life.
Yeah, but and also the arrangements are so not traditional sort of songs really in a way, were they? And they're all like, which is like Kraftwerk, that was another one, that blew my mind, Autobahn, because it was like, oh my God, and that was my older brother's, I think I was about 10. And it was like, oh my word, it's like this whole record, a concept, about a motorway. It was good that it was called Autobahn. I think it was called Motorway. I wouldn't have taken much notice. Autobahn, it doesn't sound the same. But it's like the idea of the concept and a track just not like going in any traditional format of a pop song or a song with lyrics or anything.
That and Tubular Bells. I used to love Tubular
Bells.
Bells.
Oh, blew my mind. Yeah,
I still love that. Actually.
It's a great album.
I know, it really is.
Slightly
weird bit on the B-side, but even the sort of weird caveman grunting bit. So I can never quite get my head around that, but I do like it.
Yeah.
Omadorn as well.
Omadorn, yeah,
Another
I liked
good one.
Omadorn.
Yeah.
Didn't you meet up with him or something?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did go to meet Mike Oldfield in Ibiza and get shown around his new palatial kind of Jerry Anderson sort of Thunderbird's house. That was pretty special. Which he then sold to Noel Gallagher, apparently.
Oh, there you go.
Did he?
Yeah. Wasn't that special, obviously.
Wasn't Tubular Bells sort of like the beginning of the Virgin, or it helped?
No, it was the record that set Virgin up.
Helped. Yeah,
and then they dropped him, and he was like super pissed off. Apparently, whatever the word is, so I hear.
Well,
I can imagine that. But then he got, it was The Exorcist that really threw that track into the because it was, I don't know, it wasn't doing, I don't know if it was doing that well until it became the theme to The Exorcist. Then it went absolutely astronomical, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's, the story of that. There's a brilliant documentary of him talking about how he made that album, and it's such a brilliant work of art. Using offcuts of bits of tape from, because he was a tape op in a studio. And so when people would finish their session, if there was like a couple of minutes at the end, he'd cut the tape and record something on it and add that onto his master tape, which is why it's all these little chunks that flow together, because they were all kind of recorded in little dribs and drabs and put together like that. I think that's the case. And then he sort of shows you him playing the bass at the end through the big Tubular Bells bit. And it's just like, I had to keep this up for like 7 or 9 minutes. My fingers are hurting now already. I was just after 30 seconds. And it's just like, he's such like an incredible virtuoso musician. He's mental.
I saw one documentary where he basically played everything.
Yeah.
Is that the same documentary?
Yeah, that's what he did. Apart from the sort of vocal, the choir kind of bits. A couple of instruments he didn't do, but
the bit where he goes, is that Omadorn? Is that Tubular, when he introduces the instrument?
Yes,
that's Tubular Bells.
Tubular Bells,
Stanshaw from Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
I was never really a fan of that.
Oh, I love that.
No, I didn't.
It's just that bit, two slightly distorted guitars.
No, I don't like
it's just
that
like, my head used to try and work out, can I hear two slightly distorted guitars in that bit?
It took me out of the zone. It took me out of the...
it put me into it. It was kind of like a lesson in recording studio technique.
That's what I mean. It's not like...
When myself and Andy used to do very early shows, we had one track with an extended middle 8 section, and Andy used to introduce the instruments that were being triggered. So it would be like, all behind, expander, and then the sequencer would play this, or Juno 106, and then the Juno 106 would play.
Nice. Yeah.
It's all about the comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. He should have had two slightly distorted Oscars or something like that.
Detuned oscillators.
No, it's interesting because going back to Gary taking you to gigs, because that tradition carried on. He used to take me to gigs when I was about 12. He took me to my first gig, which was Split Ends, which was brilliant, actually. And then we had tickets to go and see Kraftwerk doing the Computer World tour, and that was one of my first albums. Gary bought, what do you call it, Autobahn. You had The Man Machine and Trans-Europe Express, and I bought Computer. I was waiting for one of them to buy Computer World. They didn't, so I had to buy it. And
it's a shame we didn't have another brother who could have just taken over.
Yeah, But we had tickets for it, and then we couldn't go in the end because they moved the date, and he was on holiday, and my mum wouldn't let me go on my own, and my mum didn't come and did. I don't know why my mum or dad didn't come to the gig, actually.
We worked that out the other day.
Yeah, so why didn't one of them come in and see Kraftwerk? People didn't do that then. They would do it now.
Probably.
In this post-rave generation, we'd all do that, wouldn't we?
Well, we get lots
I've been to see bands with my kids,
Yeah, we get loads of people come in and bring their kids, don't they?
For Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? But... Jesus.
Why didn't you say that it was sold out? That's all right,
I'm
I
not
can't say
cruel. But it's weird, though, because I remember sitting at home really sulking the day that the gig was on, when I didn't see the Computer World tour. But you know what? It's kind of built in my head into such it's the best gig I never went to. You know what I mean? It's like, if I'd have been there, it could never live up to this impression that I've got of how flipping fantastic that gig was. I quite like not seeing it. There's a couple of gigs like that when we missed the Severed Heads as well. We went up to see the Severed Heads and Hula, and I was so excited because the Severed Heads were one of my favourite electronic bands. And we got to the bar at the ICA, both such idiots. And we were sat in the bar at the ICA buying drinks and chatting to Phil's kind of lovely London friends. And I'm going, wow, look at that. They've got the Severed Heads on the telly in here. It's brilliant. It's really great. They're playing the Severed Heads in here before they come on. That's great.
That's a good idea.
And then it finished, in the room. And I remember saying, well, should we go in and see them then? So there's all the people are coming out. And someone said, no, they were on. So, and that's, I know. We're making up for that, though, because we're playing with them in Adelaide in a couple of months' time. We're actually doing a gig with the Severed Heads.
This is
Can't believe it. That's a dream come true.
Well, it is
unless I fall asleep in the hotel and miss it.
So is that festivals you're doing in Australia?
Mixtures. There's one's, I think, like a sort of dance night, a bit of a rave.
Yeah.
Then a few of our own gigs. I think the thing with the Severed Heads is kind of a fringe thing on a festival. Yeah. And the Perth one is a festival, and the two New Zealand ones are festivals.
Yeah, they are. That'd be good.
It's great catching up again.
It's a real pleasure. I mean, I'm happy to see two like-minded electronic musician people.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I know, we're still doing it at the same.
I know.
It's great, isn't it?
And with this old.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's brilliant.
Fantastic.
Vince Clarke, Phil Hartnoll, Paul Hartnoll, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Listeners, if you enjoyed today's talk, definitely make sure to check out Vince's other episodes with us, as well as his radio show that he mentioned earlier. That's called The Synthesizer Show, and it's co-hosted by Vince and Reed Hayes of Reed and Caroline.
And of course, you can check out the Talkhouse on your various social platforms, including Facebook, Instagram. What's another social platform? Twitter. Twitter's the third one.
And Josh, I've got to say, there are some great shots on those socials of the guys at Hook and Fate Studios here in Brooklyn. They're pretty badass looking motherfuckers, I'll be honest. This is like some Guy Ritchie shit.
The Talkhouse podcast theme song was composed and performed by The Range, and today's episode was engineered by Mark Yoshizumi.
Listeners, one very cool piece of news. The Talkhouse podcast is now available on Spotify. As you're streaming the new Orbital record, as you're streaming the new Erasure record, you can take a little pause between to listen to this conversation on Spotify. Well, if you're here, you've already listened to it. Anyway, you get the point. We picked 16 of our favorite past episodes and have just started putting every new weekly episode up on Spotify. So make sure to follow us there for all the new stuff coming out, including next week's double episode. We have Proto-Martyr in conversation with Preoccupations, and Portishead and Beak's Jeff Barrow with Annika of Exploded View. Till next week, I'm Elliot Einhorn.
I'm Josh Modell.
Peace.
Peace.